discover new things about myself. Before this trip, I was in my own comfort zone and was friends with 2 of the 15 people going on this trip. All throughout high school, I was pretty quiet and shy, still kind of quiet, but I'm working on it. I was persuaded to go on this trip by 2 friends. They told me that it would be really fun and it would be a great way to spend 2 weeks out of your summer. It sounded really like a great idea, but the idea of not being able to shower for 2 weeks wasn't really appealing. I eventually agreed to go on the trip, but that didn't mean my balls immediately came down. I stayed in tents with 4 other girls who I didn't know and a crazy counselor who made us make her cafe mochas every single morning. And unfortunately, I had been separated from the 2 friends who I had known on this trip. The trip had a very rocky start. I didn't know anyone, it was hot, and the backpacks we had were really hard to carry. But being hoarded together 24 hours a day can force you to become friends with people. Eventually, we started finally working as a unit. Before we left on the trip, we were told that exactly we'd be doing. Amongst learning to survive in the wilderness, putting up tents, and hanging our food in trees so animals couldn't get it, we were going to scale the side of the mountain. The leader woke us up at 2 o'clock in the morning to start our 17-hour summit. It was pitch black, and we had to rely on each other to make sure our path was clear. By sunrise, we had made it to our first big challenge. We had to scale the side of a mountain in order to make it to the peak. The peak was nearly vertical, and we had to make indents in the snow with our boots in order to make steps to get across the side. I remember waiting in line. It took about 10 minutes for my turn to get up, and I remember my hands were shaking and my heart was pounding, but I knew that with the encouragement from my fellow hikers, I could do it. Unfortunately, I have a fear of heights, so this was an even bigger challenge. It took about 15 minutes for me to cross the side, and it was probably the longest 15 minutes of my life. I was able to get through it because of everyone who was there with me. After looking back at the mountainside, I realized I wouldn't have been as confident as I was if everyone on my trip hadn't worked so well as a unit. This trip was definitely like the most rewarding experience of my life. In conclusion, not all experiences outside of your comfort zone are going to be bad ones. Forcing myself to go outside my comfort zone was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. I made new friends, experienced new things, and learned a lot about myself. Every person should try to widen his or her horizons. The rewards from the experience will stick with you for the rest of your life. Try new things because you never know. Your experience could be something totally badass, like scaling the side of a mountain.